What's going on, guys? It's your boy D Sports coming in with another video. Quick news, and then we'll get into today's topic. The Jacksonville Jaguars have found their new defensive coordinator. They have hired former Packers linebackers coach Anthony Campanelli. He was their, I think it was their run game coordinator and their, for the defensive side, and their linebackers coach. He is now our new DC. So congratulations to congratulations to him and his family on the new opportunity and the new gig. And we've got our new defensive coordinator. So some quick news right there. All right. So today's topic, I wanted to talk about what are the 5 most difficult, but also most important positions. That's really the key term. There is the top five most important positions on an NFL franchise, right? So obviously, like when you're building a franchise, like what are the top 5 positions that you really want to have? And obviously, a lot of these two, they can be debatable, but I think really these 5 are unquestionably, no doubt, no question, are the most obviously difficult, but also the most important positions needed to play the game in the NFL. So obviously, what's the number one? Clearly, it's the quarterback. Obviously, the quarterback, they have the term face of the franchise. So like Daniel Jeremiah, a famous draft analyst for NFL Network, the quarterback is like your truck. And then your you have your truck. The quarterback, obviously, he's your truck and he is the driver. Your quarterback is going to be the driving force to take you where you need to go. So obviously you see like Patrick Mahomes, seeing what he's doing with the Chiefs, and obviously too, it helps really to have a quarterback that really can also carry a fan base. So you're seeing what Patrick Mahomes is doing with the Chiefs, has a chance to three-peat and really put himself in the GOAT conversation. And then obviously you have Brady, seeing what he did in New England. You have Aaron Rodgers, what he did in Green Bay for all those years. Obviously Brett Favre, when you follow that, like all the quarterbacks they've had. Drew Brees, right, for the New Orleans Saints. Peyton Manning, when he was with the Colts and when he was with Denver. And obviously Eli Manning, what he did with the Giants. Cam Newton, like how bright was Cam Newton when he was with Carolina, like those good days in Carolina, the smile, the big physical Cam Newton, the dual threat, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks of all time, Phillip Rivers. And then obviously now you have obviously Mahomes, and then you have Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, like one of the most dynamic quarterbacks. You see what that fan base and all the people that love and look out for Lamar Jackson, and how people game plan for a quarterback. And I think too, that's really the biggest thing. You got to get your quarterback. And as you see too, like you can be, and obviously you see like with the Raiders, for example, when you don't have a quarterback, and obviously too, like the Cleveland Browns, like seeing these teams and the Jets, seeing these teams that have struggled to really find that franchise quarterback, and why teams haven't been able to find that consistency in that franchise is because they don't have the quarterback to lead them to the success that they need to do. They may have the talent, like the Jets, they have the talent defensively and offensively, but they don't really have the quarterback. Obviously, they have Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is not the Aaron Rodgers of old. The Cleveland Browns, they've kind of been in quarterback purgatory for the last 30 to going on 40 years. Obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? They've been trying to do the patch and band-aid. Like quarterback is not the position you want to just keep putting band-aids in. Here, we'll put a quarterback here and a quarterback there. Like you're not going to find success. And you need that quarterback to really take you over the top. So like you're seeing like a Jaden Daniels and what he's been able to do with the Washington Commanders, and from a team that has been in quarterback kind of purgatory for the last decade, they haven't been able to find that guy since rookie RG3. Now they have a rising star in Jaden Daniels, who took them to the NFC Championship game. The Houston Texans, they had Deshaun Watson when he, had his great moments there, and then they were able to get C.J. Stroud, and seeing what C.J. Stroud has been able to do, right? And seeing what he's been able to do with the Houston Texans, you need that franchise quarterback. The franchise quarterback, that is going to be the position that really takes your franchise over the top. And that's going to be very important. That's very important that you need that franchise quarterback in the building. Like, in my opinion too, I think with the Jaguars, like, Trevor Lawrence to me is a franchise quarterback. I think we have our franchise quarterback, and then obviously now you have to build around your franchise quarterback. So you got to have the guy, you got to have the key. You got to give your key to that player, and he's got to take you wherever you need to go. And you're seeing, obviously, with those quarterbacks that I named previously and what they've been able to do in the fan bases, that's really helped build over time. I think that's obviously, and I think no question, that's the most important position, and it's the face of your franchise. That's, to me, that name, that title specifically, is very important. All right, so my dad, he asked me a question. He says, all right, so you got your franchise quarterback. So this is position or kind of group number 2. And he asked me, he says, so you got your franchise quarterback. What are you doing for your franchise quarterback? What are you doing first as a GM? He said, are you going to give your quarterback, would you give him an all-out O-line? Are you going all-out O-line? Or are you going to give him, like, the best of the best receivers? And I said offensive line. Like, and again, wide receivers are very important. Again, you got to have, your quarterback obviously needs weapons to throw to. He needs weapons to get the ball at too. But he needs a line up front to be able to protect him and allow him to do what he needs to do. And that's why the offensive line is the second most important and probably the most difficult position on the offensive line to play. And most important too, position overall, is the left tackle or the blind side. So, like, obviously your left-hand quarterbacks like a Michael Penix or a Tua Tagovailoa, the right tackle is the most important. They need a really good, strong right tackle on that right side. And then obviously left tackle is the most important. And obviously too, the offensive line as a whole is very important, right? And Nico Elite Takes and my good bro Messiah, Teledove, go subscribe to his channel. I got to put that in the description below. And we've talked about it. Like, you want to have, as a coach, you want to be like the Jim Harbaugh per se. So, like, obviously it's cool to, again, get all the nice wide receivers. It's cool. And my friend was telling, and again, Messiah, my good friend Messiah was telling me this as well. It's cool. You can get all the good details around your house. You can add all the good fabrics and all the good materials around your home and stuff in, but you got to start from the ground up. And you got to start from the trenches. You got to start, from the inside. You got to build the foundation, right, too, of your house. And the offensive line is really like that foundation, that strong front, right? They're going to be the ones to protect your quarterback. They're going to be the ones to that obviously help your running back in the run game, to push the defensive line back, to give your running back holes in the run game. And obviously the left tackle being the most difficult position because they have to block the blind side. And then they have to be able to, one, you gotta have balance. As a tackle, as good as you can be, you have got to have balance in this league as a tackle, as an offensive lineman. Excuse me, specifically. When you don't have that balance, and obviously too, you get put on your behind a lot. Like, too, when you're going up against the best edge rushers each week, you gotta have a guy like a Trent Williams, a Tyron Smith in the pass, a Jonathan Ogden from the Ravens, on Orlando Brown, currently now playing for him and his dad, like two really good left tackles, Rashawn Slater. There's really, and obviously Lane Johnson, while he's a right tackle, and obviously Jalen Hurts right-handed, but still Jordan Mailata too. That you see how the Philadelphia Eagles, they are where they are because of their offensive line. We rave and we talk about the offensive line. The Chargers, like, remember too, people, they threw so much slack because they didn't take Malik Nabers at number 5. No, they took Joe Alt, a 6'8", 320-pound tackle from Notre Dame. And look, you see how that's happened now. Like, the Chargers are one of the best rushing offenses in the game last year, and Justin Herbert was protected last year. Now, obviously, they didn't do a good job of that in the wild card game, but still, they got where they were because Jim Harbaugh has had really good teams, especially going back to Michigan and San Francisco. They have been good specifically because they build from the ground up. So as a GM and as an executive, the first thing I would want to do, so I've got my franchise quarterback. What do I want to do? I want to keep him upright. I want to keep him protected. And then I have a running back who's really good. What do I want to do? I want to get some tough guys, some tough, nasty, gritty guys up front to block for him and create holes so that he can be the best running back that he can be. So that's really, too, why I feel like that's why the offensive line is very important. And the second most, that's the second most important group, and also the left and the blind side protectors. Center two is a very important position because they make the calls on the offensive line as well. They help get the offensive line. They kind of get them right, and then obviously too the quarterback too shifts the protection. That's why too obviously that adds more to the quarterback's plate as well. Like going back to the quarterback point, why the quarterback is important is because they make signals. They call the signals. They get everyone in line. They make sure everyone's set. And obviously they hear the plays from the offensive coordinator, and it's their point to execute those plays, right? And that's why the quarterback there, and then you have the offensive line, left tackle. Those are your important positions there. Number 3, what is the third most important position? All right. And I think this one could be debatable, but I think this is one that maybe a lot of people don't talk about in this aspect, but it's the tight end position, right? The tight end, they're known as the security blanket. They're a quarterback security blanket. So tight ends have they take a lot of the contact. They're asked to go over the middle of the field where safeties or linebackers are coming, and they're getting palmed, hitting the knees, legs, chest, all that. And then 2, they're asked to block. Blocking as a tight end, especially like in the draft, where there's a lot of scouts and there's obviously your draft experts who critique a lot of these players, and specifically tight ends. Can the tight end hold up in the run game? Like one of the key things, like, a tight end can be, graded on, like as a prospect, is their ability to block. Can they hold up in the run game? Can they be out there on running downs? And that's why, too, it's important that you need tight ends who obviously can be a receiving option for your quarterback, but also be able to be kind of that 6th offensive lineman or that 6th extra line of protection, guy who can also help pass protect. Like Rob Gronkowski, in my opinion, what makes him probably the greatest tight end all time is just his ability, obviously, how dominant he was as a receiving threat, but how physical and dominant he was as a blocker, especially later in his career. Gronk was able to do so much more as a blocker, and the Patriots, they won a lot of those games, like running the football, because Rob Gronkowski was able to just do a lot in the blocking game and being able to block. So like, too, and again, being that security blanket, like tight ends too. So like too, a lot of quarterbacks, and as you've seen too, they don't necessarily need elite wide receivers. And I'm not saying too, not devaluing the wide receiver position, because that's not what I'm saying. You do need really good wide receivers. It helps quarterbacks make them look good when they have elite wide receivers. But just like Brady has never, other than like Randy Moss, he's never had like special top tier talent at the wide receiver position. But one thing that he had that's really helped, Brady in his career was Rob Gronkowski. You have Mahomes and Kelsey, that connection. Like, even though recently now the Mahomes, obviously back then, and the Chiefs, they were more offensively, they were getting the job done offensively, but now you're seeing defensively. But one thing Mahomes has always had is a really good tight end, and that's Travis Kelsey, right? Lamar Jackson's never had an elite wide receiver in his time in Baltimore, but he's always had Mark Andrews. And granted, I'm not going to get into what Mark Andrews did in that divisional game, but still, Lamar Jackson is who he is because he has Mark Andrews, that security blanket that he can depend on. You have Phillip Rivers back then, right, when he was with the Chargers, being able to throw to Antonio Gates. And then you have Tony Gonzalez and what he was able to do. And then Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham. Like guys who they've had great, obviously, wide receivers, but the reason why they've been able to do what they would do in the majority of their production comes from having a tight end. So tight end being that security blanket, doing a lot of the dirty work too. They do a lot of the dirty work in the receiving game. You know, catch a lot of they help too. They go over the middle of the field, drop in the zone, catch the ball. And then two, red zone threats. Tight ends too. It's very important that tight ends are red zone threats because they're the bigger, stronger mismatches versus like the safeties and the linebackers. They create mismatches too. So it's great when you have a tight end like those guys that I mentioned, like the Gronks, the Kelseys, guys who you can go put one-on-one. You're at the 5 and you throw that fade route, and like Brady throwing that fade route to Rob Gronkowski, like example versus the Steelers, how Rob Gronkowski, I remember he absolutely terrorized the Steelers. Went one-on-one, Sean Davis couldn't stop him, and then just a ferocious spike. Like, you know, it's important, like having that tight end who can do it all, and then as a receiver, as a blocker, and who can stay on the field and presents a matchup too. And it's crazy how Travis Kelce, like me and my boy Saya, and a lot of my boys, we talk a lot, you know, about sports and whatnot. Like, it's crazy how Travis Kelce, how he gets open because it doesn't look crazy. Like, how does he create separation? But he does it. He just gets open. He's open every time. So that's why the tight end position is very important, and you need a tight end to get the job done. Number 4, and this is another position that's very important, and I think we've seen the re-evolution of this position, especially this past season, and that's the running back position. Running back specifically back in the day, were like running back was probably the second most important position in football back in the day, right? So like obviously back in the day you had like Jim Brown, Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Gale Sayers, all those, you know, Eric Dickerson, Curtis, what's his name? It was Curtis something, or you had like the Warren Duns, and like all those like top running backs back in the day, and now you're seeing like the re-evolution of the running back position, and they have like the title. They're like, obviously you have the bell cows. They have those big terms like the bell cows, and you also have the phrase where they take the pressure off the quarterback, especially when you have a young quarterback. It's really good when they have a running back that can really help take the pressure off of them. That makes their game as a quarterback a lot easier. They don't have to throw the ball or process the field, like how they have to process the field and do all like everything. How that's why too that's the most difficult position to play in the game. Them being able to have a running back that can you can give the ball off to, and he can take it 80, 60 yards down the field for a touchdown, that's very important. So like seeing like what Saquon Barkley is doing right now with the Philadelphia Eagles, like almost being very close to breaking the rushing record in the regular season, and he's on pace to break the all scrimmage record this regular season and playoffs. Like seeing what Saquon's been able to do to take that Philly team to the Super Bowl and have a chance to potentially knock off the Chiefs of their 3-peat chances, that would be special. Seeing what Derrick Henry has done, like what Derrick Henry's done in Tennessee, and now seeing what he's doing with Baltimore, and what Lamar Jackson doing what he's doing, and that's not a knock on anything. That's just showing how elite. And Derrick Henry's 31 years old, 6'3", 250 pounds, still going and running. And you're seeing too Josh Jacobs, what he's able to do now with the Packers. James Cook, scoring touchdowns every week. Kyron Williams in that Sean McVay system. Bijan, Jonathan Taylor with the Colts. Nick Chubb in the past. Todd Gurley, and what he's been at. Todd Gurley was, you know, when he was healthy and that knee was right, like unstoppable, right? And then two, look at what Ashton Jeanty just did with the Boise State Broncos, carrying them like a Mountain West team to the college football playoff. Like seeing what he's been able to do. Like running backs are very important in this game, and they take the pressure off the quarterback, but they're like really too. They're the running force too. They can really too. They literally put the team on their back. They take the most contact too, and that's why too. You see too why running backs, they don't really last long. You really too have to take care of your body like a Derrick Henry. It's important to take care of your body. Adrian Peterson's another guy that I forgot to mention. Like there's so many great running backs that have played this game, like that have just really that carry teams on their back. Like they are sometimes too the offense. You know what I mean? So the running back position is very important to have on your team as well, and that's why that's the fourth most important position on your team. The last position that I'll get into, that I want to dive into, is edge rusher. You gotta, so obviously, right? So in order to stop on the offensive side, you got to be able to get after the quarterback, and they got to get after the quarterback, right? And they're the relentless factors. So like you're seeing now, and you're seeing too, like, and this is probably the most, these names are the most talked about names. Probably you talk about these names every day when you talk about in the sports world. You talk about a Micah Parsons for the Dallas Cowboys, Myles Garrett, T.J. Watt, Trey Hendrickson, the Bosa brothers, Josh Hines Allen, Trey Hendrickson, Aiden Hutchinson for the Detroit Lions. And then obviously back in the day you had LT, Lawrence Taylor, Bruce Smith, Julius Peppers. There's so many edge rushers. Dwight Freeney, that deadly spin move he used to hit back in the day. So many edge rushers. What's the DeMarcus Ware? Like there's so many edge rushers too that I can't even name off the top of my head. I'm just trying to name off the top of my head, but you need a guy who can get after the quarterback. And when you have that guy who is able to get after the quarterback, create pressure, create chaos on the edge, and two, it's important they have to be able to guys do that. They stop the run. Also too, as a edge rusher, you got to contain the edge. Don't lose edge containment. These are two, like TJ Watt. TJ Watt is one of probably the best edge rushers in the game, because he's probably the best run defending edge in the game right now. He sets the edge. And he's able to, teams don't run that way, because if they run TJ Watt's way, they ain't going nowhere. TJ Watt does a great job holding his line. He doesn't get out contained. He doesn't get out of the play. He stays in his game. He stays in his lane where he's at. And how he's able to block shit, create the swim move, dip under the offensive lineman, and makes the play in the run game. Like rushing the passer, but then also being able to stop the run and contain the edge is very important. And you need guys who are able to get after the quarterback. That's why you're seeing too how important it is. Like it's kind of even too, it's rare to find a generational talent too at the edge rusher position, or just a special talent. You just need a really good edge rusher who can get after the quarterback and really help push the defense, push the offense back. And you're seeing too how these edge rushers, Michael Strahan is another one, a guy who's the single season leader in sacks, 22.5 sacks in a season. So when you have an edge rusher who's able to, again, just cause chaos, get after the quarterback, you, as a franchise, that's probably one key position, like that fifth key position that I need. If I'm going to be able to be a really good defense, I need a really good edge rusher. I need a good defensive end or an outside linebacker, depending if you play a 4-3 or a 3-4 defense. Obviously, go down the list, difficult positions. You got cornerback, and how difficult cornerbacks are able to do, because obviously you have to know you have to cover the wide receiver, and you have to be able to handle wide receivers with quick feet, be able to play press, zone man coverage. And then you have the wide receiver position. Like wide receivers they're important, y'all. Wide receiver, you got to be able to catch the ball, and obviously that's going to be your key guys for your quarterback. You need those guys for your quarterback to have on the team, be able to catch the football. And then obviously you have Your interior defensive tackles, seeing what like Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, those guys, creating those presences up front on the D line. And then you have obviously your safeties, the Troy Polamalu's, seeing like a Minka Fitzpatrick and what he's doing right now, the Derwin James, the Kyle Hamiltons, like the safeties positions right now. Seeing what they've been able to do, the Cam Chancellors back in the day, those strong safeties, but also those free safeties as well. Earl Thomas back in the day as well. Eric Weddle. Little people don't talk about Eric Weddle. People need to put some respect in Eric Weddle's name. There's a lot of great safeties in this game. Harrison Smith is another. What's another great position? And middle linebacker too. Those are the guys too that get the defense right. You got to have a good middle linebacker. The Roquan Smiths right now, the Fred Warners of the league right now. Seeing those guys who make the calls up front. Foye Oluwakin's another guy. My boy Zaire Franklin for the Colts, and what he's able to do, just those interior linebackers and those guys who make those plays, but also they call the plays up front for the defense. And also too, being able to get the defenders down, like two tackles for loss, being able to blitz. Levante David is another guy. Bobby Wagner. Luke Kuechly didn't play long in the league, but was one of the probably not even debatably, he was the best linebacker in the game. Brian Urlachers of the world, like just those middle linebackers, those guys who are the physical, they set the tone on defense, like those guys, you know what I mean? So those are just going down the list. So you got your quarterback, your offensive line tackle, tight end, running back, and edge rusher. Those are my top 5 most important and difficult positions to play. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comment section below. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Y'all stay blessed out there. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Be blessed. Peace.